I wrestle with this. I mean, on the one hand, elites, party of Davos, small group of ultra wealthy people who truly have the ability to move the needle in terms of having real access to power, the senators, the heads of state, the regulators that have the ability to capture. That's one definition of elites, a very small one. I don't believe that that's really what we're getting at. I think we're really getting at roughly the top 10% that Franklin Foer wrote that extraordinary article in The Atlantic about the people that have the ability to benefit from guilds, the people that have the ability to take advantage of the great sort that's happening in the world, to be on the right side of the walls, to make sure that the lead poisoning and the other issues that would affect the broad society don't affect them, don't affect the kids, that have the ability to pass on their connections in ways that are useful, get the internships, that kind of thing. And this is very personal for me. I mean, when I went to Tulane, I went there because I'm a public school kid, Catholic high school, and Tulane gave me a full scholarship. And I thought, well, that's awesome. $8,000 a year for me to spend as money, plus not gonna have to pay anything. What a great opportunity. I had no idea that it almost was the end of the road for me because the job fair was crap. None of my professors had any connections to any of the Ivy schools, the good PhD programs, anything like that. And I mean, they moved mountains for me and it almost didn't work. And I think, and that was for someone who was like really trying to figure out every angle. You take 5% away from that and I'm not getting to what I'm doing right now, just not happening. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, it wasn't because my grades weren't any good. It wasn't because I don't know how to communicate. I had those two basic skills. I just didn't have the connections. I literally didn't have anyone that was in a position of being a gatekeeper. And so for me, elites are people that have direct access to gatekeepers. And when you talked about trust, Nick, I think this is a really interesting point. The people that do or don't trust institutions or elites, I think you could define very well by people that do or do not have access to gatekeepers. If you don't have access to gatekeepers, your level of trust and belief in the legitimacy of the system falls off a freaking cliff. For me, that's a definition.
Or maybe to add to that definition, because I don't really disagree with you that much, there's also, I think of elites as people who have enough autonomy to control a lot of the outcomes in their lives. And that, you know, as someone who went from, Ian was definitely poorer than I was. I was kind of maybe one paycheck away from disaster. My family was maybe 2 or 3 paychecks away from, you know, a great collar family. But as I got older and more educated and progressed further in my career, I gained more and more of a sense of autonomy and being able to control the outcomes that I care about. And I can tell you that when I encounter outcomes that I can't control and I feel powerless, that really makes me anxious. And I can, you know, I remember back to a time earlier in my life when I felt that way all the time. On the other hand, I think when you see kids like us who were kids and then transitioned, class transitions, we wrestle with two, and I'm not going to speak for Ian, I think in general, we will wrestle with two different feelings. One is, there but for the grace of God, holy crap, it was such a near miss thing, right? Tulane, but I made it. I had the same experience. I mean, at the last minute, I was given a scholarship for my graduate education because I was out. I was done. I was beaten, bankrupt, the whole thing. And I always think, wow, near miss. On the other hand, you also come back from this background and say, boy, if I did it, a lot of people can do it. And sometimes unfairly, because you do need innate talent, you need family, you need someone who cares about you. We both had moms who said, get out of here, go do something, you know. So I think of elites as people not with a lot of money or education, but people who definitely have a lot more autonomy over their lives. And I think we do have this is where I think Ian and I are probably in very strong agreement. I think of elites as people who have that autonomy, and we have a social responsibility to exercise it on behalf of people who don't.
What about luck?
What about luck? You know, I mean, luck, yeah, luck.
For rabbits.
But, you know, there is, I mean, when we bring up the issue of luck, you know, I guess this is where I take a third son of Massachusetts who was much more privileged than we were, John F. Kennedy, to say, you know, life isn't fair. And there are people sometimes who make it into positions of great power through dumb luck. I speak of no one in particular right now, of course. And also people of great talent that I've seen plowed under the ground through just bad luck.
I think access to gatekeepers makes you much luckier.